Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Her Royal Highness Princess Reema bint Bandar Al Saud, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the United States, and Graça Machel, Chair, Graça Machel Trust.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 5th edition of the FII. It's a pleasure to have you here. And as a board member of the FII, I am absolutely honored and proud to have Her Excellency, Graça Machel, in Saudi Arabia, not only to speak to us today, but also to share with us her insights and teach us about the lessons she's learned through inequality, through social justice. You've made an impact on this world, and I welcome you today to address our audience. Please.
Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, Heads of States and Governments, Your Excellency Yasir Al-Humanitarian, Chairman of the Future Investment Initiative Institute, the CEO of the Future Investment Initiative Institute, Mr. Richard RTS, dignitaries and honorable guests. It gives me such a pleasure to address this distinguished audience, and I thank the organizers of this 5th edition of the FAI conference for inviting me. I look forward to the shared learnings and robust discussions which will enrich us over the course of the next few days. I would like to start off by lowering any high expectations you might have for a keynote opening address, as I do not come bearing the answers to the problems we face as a human family. But I do intend to share insights which I hope will inspire us to recenter our approaches and focus in advancing ourselves in solidarity as one human race and humanizing our public institutions and business endeavors. In recent decades, we have experienced rapid and profound transformations. We have generated knowledge at unprecedented speed and volume, but we arguably have not become wiser, nor unlocked the alchemy behind some of our most intractable problems. Allow me to illustrate. Global annual expenditure in education is nearly $5 trillion worldwide, but we still grapple with a global learning crisis, which render millions of children undereducated and ill-equipped for the future that awaits them. We produce far more food than what we can consume. Yet, in significant parts of the world, millions are dying from starvation on a daily basis. We have technology which allows us to communicate to billions of people in seconds with just the swipe of a screen. Yet, we communicate less effectively and have become more disconnected from ourselves and from those around us and from our broader human family more than ever before. And we have mastered the art of power politics. Yet, unequal power dynamics result in millions of women across the globe being discriminated against and denied the ability to live fulfilled lives that honor their true and full potential. When female voices are silenced at decision-making tables, whether in public and social institutions and boardroom tables, it renders them powerless in shaping the future of their societies, and it denies humanity the full benefit of their talents, expertise, experiences, and creativity. And while we have magnificent innovations in artificial intelligence and robotics, which have expanded boundaries of science and technology, they've pushed people out of the workforce and left families without sources of income. We have created a world with the worst rise of income inequality in recorded history. To illustrate this further, COVID-19 has deepened and hardened the fragmentation of humanity in two worlds. Our scientific community produced life-saving vaccines at record speed. But well-resourced countries are moving on to a post-COVID world with between 70 to 88 of their populations vaccinated. However, millions of people who desperately want to be vaccinated still live in high risk of contracting and dying from COVID. As a depressing and extreme illustration, only 4% of Africa's 1.3 billion population is fully vaccinated. This vaccine appetite is moral bankruptcy at its height. Vaccine equity is a question of life and death, but some leaders have deliberately chosen those who can live and those who can die. Where is our common humanity here? The notion of build back better rings hollow when we have this level of vicious selfishness and shameful lack of human solidarity. The stark disparities I mentioned to you this morning are contradictory to the ideals of equality and social justice we say we hold dear. Our innovations have resulted in power, profit, and wealth concentrated in hands of a few, while the majority of our fellow citizens remain disempowered and struggling for the basics for their survival. This lack of equitable investment in our own humanity results in stark, painful inequalities and empty materialism. And while it is a dark stain in our collective conscience, there is a silver line to it. It is man-made and therefore can be reversed and dismantled with our own hands. Our human family is experiencing our greatest test of solidarity in generations. Today, we must be brave and disruptive enough to redesign our societies in ways which work for us all and value the lives and well-being of everyone, not just a small number of us. So I encourage captains of industry here today, as you innovate our financial systems and explore new frontiers of space and technology, see the human face of the lives you will impact and keep their welfare in mind as your North Star. Focus your efforts beyond traditional markets and the narrow notions of profit margins. Include the most marginalized in your business models and revenue streams. Work towards creating the possibilities of prosperity and a dignified standard of living for all. Enable your employees and customers, those who are building your wealth, to move from survival mode to enjoy the dignity of choice. So their humanity is your own. And to those in political positions and decision makers of policy, I urge you to allocate resources wisely to ensure the basics of human survival are met and the dignity of everyone under your protection and mandate is respected and valued. I dare you to look inwards, to root out discriminatory legislations and norms that infringe on people's rights. Push the boundaries of policy and implementation so the defenseless are protected. Introduce inclusivity so that those on the outskirts are welcomed into the comforts of the mainstream. So as we collaborate and collectively brainstorm over the next couple of days, let us invest in what lifts the dignity of us all. And as we continue to prove ourselves to be audacious and bold in our innovations, let us also become the generation that can redress our imbalances and deliberately invest in the humanity of everyone, in every woman, every person, every child, especially girls, everywhere. I thank you.
Thank you. What an amazing way to begin this forum. You know, last year we closed with the voice of a woman, Lubna Al-Alayan, and today we open with the voice of Her Excellency Graça Machel. I can't thank you enough for joining us. You've been this advocate for vaccine equity, for social equity around the world. As you mentioned to us today, the activism part of communicating about what we need to do must end. The active part and the action part must begin now. How would you address the inequalities, particularly those for the most vulnerable? What could we tell everybody in the room today? If you could do one thing today, what would it be? What action must they take?
I'll go to my favorite cause. Before COVID, we had already millions of children, especially girls, outside the education system. We are told by analysts that with COVID, we regress at least 1 decade of the gains we had made. So if I am to say one thing, which I believe is so important for our societies, is it's not an issue of building back only. It's to rescue those who have been forced to regress, to come to the mainstream, and then we move all of us together. Investing in education of every child, especially girls, is the best investment in human development, in human capital, which we can do for ourselves, for a future of social justice, a future of equity.
Regardless of whether it's the developing world or the developed world.
Absolutely. It's every corner of the globe. Because even in developed world, we still have discrimination. We still have people who are living in the margin. That's why I insist every way, every child in every corner. So no one, literally no one should be left behind.
Well, this is so on point for one of the focuses we have at the FII. We have an interactive forum called Investing in Education Summit, and we're focusing on the technology of education. Given everything that's happened with education going remote recently, how do you see technology as an avenue to level the playing field and provide greater access to education for rural girls, when we're also at the same time having the conversation of digital poverty? The world is not yet connected, but we faced a crisis and we had to be. How do you think we can resolve this to create better equity for both women across Africa, the Middle East, and around the world?
Refocusing investment in infrastructure which will allow those rural areas, those very poor schools, those poor families to get connected. Once this is done, you reduce the digital divide, you allow opportunity for every child, every teacher to use technology exactly to close the gap of inequality we are talking about, of poverty we're talking about, and even, the learning crisis we're talking about. So I think investing in infrastructure, investing in requalifying the teachers so that they can use well technology and creating these opportunities, it is possible. The world has resources to do this. It's a question of decision. It's a question really of deliberately doing it, knowing that it's the right thing to do, it's the just thing to do, and it is what is going to make our society sustainable.
And as we walk into this era of COP26 and climate disaster, not even climate change, I think we also need to stress that as we build and create this equity through digital engagement and infrastructure, to build it with the climate and the environment so that we're not destroying it for those young people that we're educating. So that we have to keep this balance in what we do and be thoughtful about it. But you know, I would love some of your reflections on your personal journey as a businesswoman, an activist and a leader, because you've been a woman that has held your own with the greatest men that have been in your life, and many times you outshined them. But you did it with humility, and I would love your advice for some of the ladies out here. What were the obstacles you faced and how did you overcome them? And what can we learn from the experience that you had?
You know, many times we women, we just underestimate the power inside ourselves. The first step, I think, is just to believe that you are in this world and you have a space of your own, and that space is not going to be occupied by anyone else. And so you can. It doesn't matter that I have had the chance of walking side and side with one of the most revered persons. But fortunately as well, because he was so open-minded, he knew how to respect my space, my dignity, my work, so that really it is a partnership of the two. So advice, if I can say, is that as a woman, you are no less than anyone. You just have to believe that that unique person, that unique personality you are, has to shine, because that space is yours. No one else is going to occupy it. And of course, you build partnership and respect for those who are around you. But to be respected, you have to respect yourself.
There you have it, ladies, some of the best advice you could ever get. And, you know, I'd love to thank you for not only your thoughtful but very inspiring remarks to all of us. And on behalf of the board of the FII, it would give me a great honor to present you with one of the first Humanity Awards of the FII Institute, 2 women celebrated for their voices and their actions.
That's such an honor. Thank you. Thank you so much. Your Highness, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so very much.